welcome to the Voice Mood. I'm your host, Olivia Peck, your local millennial voice teacher. Hey, hi, hello, how are ya? We're going to be talking a little bit about vowels today. I know it's something a lot of people are wondering. Yes, A, E, I, O, U. And I recorded a little video just before this going through some examples of singers who navigate their vowels very nicely. It's fun to watch singers and their vowels. So, if you have any questions about singing, let me know in the chat and we'll get right into it. If you're wondering about performing, if you're wondering about how to just sound better, singing high notes, singing with less tension, performance anxiety, whatever, what have you, let me know. And if you're watching this later, leave a comment and I'll answer on the next live, which will be likely next Wednesday. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about vowels. And I know I've talked about it before, but when we're talking about vowels, we want to control a few things, okay? Your lips, your tongue, your jaw, and that's pretty much it. Your soft palate also. Oh, okay. Let's talk about the vowels, okay? So, E, say it with me. E. Now do E. What's the difference? The second time I lifted my soft palate, did like a sigh sound, E. And the first time it was a little more flat, E, like speaking. There's different ways to sing your vowels. I like to touch on two major ways, so like bright versus dark. So a bright vowel would be, so if you can't find me. That's more bright. Dark would be, you raise me up. If you were to sing, you raise me up, that darker, more covered vowel. In a brighter way, you raise me up. If you were to define gravity with a darker vowel instead of so if you can't find me, you might do so if you can't find me. Two different sounds, right? Right? You hear the difference? So the way you shape your vowel can really impact your sound. Now, something I talk about with my students is opening your mouth more, like open it up. Because if you don't open your mouth, you might be locking your voice in. You might be trapping the sound. So if I were to sing, that's that same song, You Raise Me Up, and not really open my mouth, you raise me up so I can da-dum-ba-da. Okay, if I didn't open my mouth up, then it would not let my voice out. But if I open my voice or open my mouth, you raise me up. Really different sound, right? So you really want to open your mouth when you sing. You don't want to be a ventriloquist, as I like to say. Now, do you need to open it a whole lot? Depends. Depends on what you're doing. So you can actually learn how to control your voice without opening your mouth too much. But to start, it's good to open. It's good to loosen all this stuff up. Okay? So let me know if you have any questions about singing, opening those vowels up, anything like that. But we're going to look at some examples and I'll go into more detail of these examples in the video that I'm going to post. But here's
I'm feeling good.
so something I talk about, good, good. It's a brighter sound. He has a little smile in it, and I'm feeling good, good. But you might hear him sometimes go, feeling good, and more of a round sound. Not one right or wrong, but two different sounds. Okay, let's go to another example. Hey, yeah, sound off in the comments. What's happening? We're talking about singing, so if you have any questions, let me know.
Life's illusions I recall.
Okay, Josh Groban, classic. I always talk about how he has taller vowels. Life's illusions I recall. Okay, perfect example of someone who has taller vowels and warmer tones for that reason. All right, something to notice. Okay, and we have a question here. So let's go to the question. Tips on pronunciation when singing, like my little southern accent. Good question. So, when you are singing, you do want to take into account your accent because the way that we speak and pronounce words does impact our voice, our sound, right? So, if I were to sing in a super twangy accent, life solutions, I recall, I really don't know how. More of a southern twang, like a Texas twang, and some Mississippi, really a lot of southern accents, North Carolina, might incorporate a little bit of a nasal quality. So, a thing to factor in is, does your twang have any nasal? Maybe, maybe not. You can plug your nose and see if there's a buzz. If there's a buzz, it might be too nasal. You might just want to lift your soft palate or adjust accordingly. Another thing you can do is factor in the wideness of your vowels when you speak. So I'm from Michigan. I have more wide vowels. Okay. But in some places, the vowels are more tall. So if my vowel shape is wider when I'm singing and more closed, that's going to affect my voice. Oh, say, can you see? Oh, say, can you see? I want to factor that in. So your accent does play a part, and it's like I said, not right or wrong. Different accents just present themselves differently. So you want to see how it's affecting your singing. Okay, just reading the chat. My daughter is 7 and sings along with every one of her mom's Spotify playlists, and she gets into it. That's so awesome. That's so, so awesome. I really love meeting new students, especially young students, who clearly from the jump singing was their outlet because that's how I was when I was a kid. So, yeah. Okay, well, let me know questions about singing because I really want to know. I really want to know what you're wondering. All right, we're going to move on to the next one.
I really don't know life at all.
So this is a really sweet duet, by the way. Really, really sweet duet. It's Joni Mitchell's originally, but this duet is really cool. Look at Kristen Chenoweth's mouth. So you can see how wide her vowels are, like we were talking about, and how that affects her sound, that smiley musical theater sound. Okay? So check that out.
Sister and advisor, there's nobody wiser, not when it comes to popular. I know about popular. And
I really love watching singers when they clearly have a relaxed jaw. So when she goes, popular, gonna be pop, it's like a hinge. I mean, it's so relaxed as opposed to when you watch Ariana Grande sing, her jaw is a little more tense, and you can hear that in the sound. No hate to Ariana Grande. She's one of the greatest voices of our time. It just goes to show that the way that you are manufacturing your vowels affects your sound. You can hear when Ariana Grande is singing and she does her "ooh" thing with her jaw, as opposed to popular, you're gonna be popular, that more relaxed jaw that Kristen Chenoweth is doing. Not really to compare good versus bad. They just create different sounds. So Ariana Grande's more covered jaw definitely affects her sound, and it creates a different effect. Okay. Sheila, hey, how you doing? She asks, any vowel tips for head voice, or is it pretty much the same across vocal styles? So, yeah, this is a really good question. So, if I am singing in head voice, I would say taller on the inside at least. So you have tall on the outside, you also have a tall on the inside. Tall on the outside meaning the jaw and the lips are taller. So popular, you're gonna be popular. Now, I don't have to open quite so much once I get more experience. Popular, you're gonna be popular, but it helps. Now, if I'm doing more mixy sound, popular, you're gonna be popular. It's easier to do it with your face a little bit smilier, a little bit wider. Across the board, having a little lift in your cheeks helps lift your soft palate. So it helps create a little bit of that ring. Keep things lifted, keeping things even in tune. And it helps both with mixed voice and head voice. But head voice is just a little bit taller in general. Mixed voice and more of a belty sound is wider, for a lack of a better term, and the soft palate isn't quite as lifted. So whatever facilitates a more lifted soft palate is better for head voice. As opposed to ee. And most of that's happening back here, but the front can help as well. Okay. Monumental sound. Let me know if that helps, Sheila. or if you have any more questions about that. Since I'm interested in teaching myself, any advice on how to get my friend I'm teaching not to be choppy when he sings? This is a really good question. So, something I always talk about with my students is connecting. So, in classical music, we call it legato versus staccato. In teaching singing, just think about connecting the words. Pretend it's all one word. So there's going to be exceptions to this, but we're not doing oh say can you see by the dawn's, oh say can you see by the dawn's. Some people don't get it right away, so another way to put it is stretch out the vowels as much as you can. Stay on the vowels longer. So, oh, say, can you see? As opposed to, oh, say, can you see? More talky. Elongate the vowels and keep the vowel pure all the way through. Oh, say, can you? As opposed to, oh, closing to the consonant. Hope that helps. A lot of the times you have to model it or find just a couple words to string together at first instead of trying a whole song like that. Hope that helps. Okay. So taller on the inside, meaning the area near your uvula. Yeah, so when I say, great question, taller on the inside, think lifting the soft palate. The soft palate is where your uvula is hanging from. So you can see it when you yawn. So if you look in the mirror, I know Sheila knows this, but look in the mirror and you can see it lift. If you yawn, you'll see it lift. Oh, oh, oh. I don't think you can see it on here. But if you watch my soft palate video, y'all, I demonstrate it a little bit better on there. So yeah, lifting the soft palate is mostly what I'm talking about with taller on the inside. And the tongue also is at play there too. So, you know, you can play around with where the tongue is. Is it super forward? Does it feel super flat in the middle? It's usually a little bit more depressed in the back. It's almost like a shape for a taller sound. And shaping the front tends to help with that. It's kind of like an automatic thing. I like to say that, we typically have vocal styles and techniques that pop out when we have one little thing to set the domino off. So if I say, smile while you sing, a lot of things just clicked into place. your soft palate lifted a little bit, your vowels are a little bit brighter, you might be opening your mouth a little bit more, maybe, maybe not. So a lot of things click into place. If I were to say, sing like you are from England, which I know people from England don't speak like that, but if you exaggerate something, you tend to start the dominoes. So, oh, sing like you're from England, ho ho ho, whatever. You're lifting your soft palate more all of a sudden, and your, lips are a little bit more rounded, and your jaw's a little bit more relaxed. It just kind of clicks things into place. That's why I really like Chris Lipe, because his videos, he talks about doing little voices and stuff. Sometimes you just need something to connect to, and then it'll kind of align stuff. So you're not thinking, okay, sticking the tongue a little more forward, lifting my soft palate, and also lift here. So that can help if you find a noise or a sound or accent to imitate. I often talk about when you're trying to find your mixed voice to imitate a twang, a Southern twang, an Australian or New Zealand twang. Hey, hey. All of a sudden, my tongue's a little flatter, my soft palate is a little lifted, but not so much, and I've got this wah, like whiny thing popping right out just because I'm imitating a sound. So another thing to imitate head voice is to think of ooh, 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 a hooting owl. So automatically I'm hooting and my tongue is a little more depressed, my soft palate's a little more lifted, and it is a little more open feeling back there. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So now when I'm trying to sing in head voice, I do the hoot, ooh, and I'm able to think about that shape in my vocal tract while I'm singing. A common misconception, though, I will say, is when you are learning a new style, sometimes people feel like they have to be stuck. Like, I'm just going to sing the whole entire phrase, the whole thing in head voice or mixed voice. It's a little bit more flexible than that. It's a lot more flexible than that. So, not to confuse you, but when you're singing, if it slips out of mixed voice or slips into head voice or slips into chest voice, that's okay. The goal is just to get a good setup so you get the sound you want and it's flexible, it moves. Okay. So an example of that would be Chapel Roan does this all the time. It's the perfect example is, I know she's singing in head voice. I wanted you to stay, but I can't ignore. That's like chest voice, but I can't ignore the crazy visions. That's chest voice into head voice. And you get a little bit smoother at that as you get more experience going from chest voice to head voice all in one phrase. So that's the idea. The point is, you don't have to get stuck in one mode. And when you're really get more and more experience, you're able to kind of switch modes quickly. I know we've talked about that before, but anyway, hope that helps. Let me know if you have any other questions about singing. Today is not going to be a super long live because I'm teaching kind of soon, but I wanted to do some vowel stuff with you guys. I had a student yesterday talk about it, and I was like, you know what? Let's just do another vowel video. So let's look at maybe another example here that I'm going to talk about in. Actually, let's do one I didn't talk about. All right, so in my video, I don't think I got to this one with Tori Kelly and Jennifer Hudson. So let's see what they got going on. I love this duet. It's a great tune.
Song with nothing on my tongue but hallelujah.
So both of them were doing hallelujah. They were opening up like hallelujah. Both of them. One of them could have done a more tall hallelujah. I should have included this, but when you have a duet and you're singing the same thing, it's really important that your vowel shape matches. You can actually find this with if you watch the Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande duet when they do Defying Gravity. I think it was at the Grammys or something. I'm not sure. But it wasn't perfectly aligned, and the pitch was just rubbing together a little bit. It was a little dissonant. That's because their vowels were not perfectly aligned. But I actually like that because it showed it was like live. Okay, live singing. It's not going to be perfect. But the way that you shape your vowels changes the acoustics, the overtones, so the frequencies. So that contributes to the pitch. So sometimes you'll have someone singing the same exact pitch, but if one person is doing hallelujah and one person is doing hallelujah, this one, the overtones might be a little bit, there might be more higher overtones, I'm assuming, and the more dark one, hallelujah, might not have as many. So you might have a little bit of a clash when they sing together. So that's why when you are in choir, the choir directors typically are really emphasizing y'all the same shape. Ooh, ah, ah, whatever you're doing has to be the same shape. A cappella groups, they'll tell you this. They watch each other's mouths, not just for timing, but also vowel shape because it changes the acoustics, changes the pitch even a little on a very small scale, but enough that you can hear it when two people are singing next to each other, if that makes sense. So your vowels really, really impact the sound on many levels. Pitch. That's why a lot of times if you don't open your mouth very much when you sing, hallelujah, hallelujah, it tends to go a little flat if you're not opening enough. Ah. So that's one way to fix pitch issues is by opening up more, putting a little smile on your cheeks. This is a really good point. So Jonathan says this technique is useful in recording too. Yes. So when you when you are recording, I'm sure many of you, when you're recording, you are like, why is this take brighter and more in tune and this take is flatter? It could be your vowel shape. So if you want a brighter tone, a little bit more of a smile, a little more open here, a little wider, just a little bit. Now, if you want that warmer tone, it might be taller, a little more covered. Hallelujah. Two different vibes. And then if you're layering, you're stacking, you want the vowels to match. So if you're doing one layer is hallelujah and you're doing a background like layer hallelujah, you want the shape to be the same. So it's not hallelujah and hallelujah up high. Is unless you're going for something with that, it's where there's some purposeful reason for it. But you know what I'm saying? You want the vowel shape to match in the layers. Okay. So Akusora, he's been popping in, giving us his updates on how he's doing with his vocals. Let's see. All right. Practicing previous tips, still struggling with several things. My larynx lifts on high notes. I can't control staccato. Okay. So if your larynx is lifting a little bit too much on high notes, meaning it's feeling a little pinched and squeezed as you get higher, definitely settle into the lower register to relax that. So you can do, let's say you're doing, what's a song that jumps somewhere over the rainbow? Really settle into the low notes fully. When you do that, it really relaxes the larynx And then when you pop up for that high note, it'll be a little freer. Somewhere, okay, as opposed to somewhere. I'm not fully relaxed into the low note, maybe, so that can help. Another thing that helps is the creak. Try creaking the note. The creak is good for relaxing the larynx. So if you're doing somewhere and it's feeling pinched, somewhere, creak it. And then open up from the creak. The creak is a voice rehab tool. It's great for aging voices. It's great for keeping a relaxed sound up high without pushing or grabbing here with your larynx. As far as staccato, take it easy. Take it easy. If you want to get better with short riffs and runs, try it slowly first. So, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Just really slow at first. And it's all about the breath. Ha, 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 ha. It's like pulsing down there. So put your focus more on that pulsing sensation than grabbing from here. It sounds like maybe you might just have a little bit of a tendency to grab from your throat, like many people. Maybe I haven't heard you recently, but that could be possible. So my resonance feels like a very nasally buzz in my head, ears when I lift my palate, and I can't match or remember pitch reliably. Can you suggest how to adjust my exercise or what to focus on next? So lifting the palate technically creates a more balanced sound between the nose escaping from your nose, air escaping from your nose and your mouth. So it could be that you're thinking you're lifting your palate, or you're lifting your palate, but it's just pushed too much in your nose as well. So what I would say that would help you, Akusara, is the nose plugging thing, to make sure that even though you're lifting your soft palate and you think, oh, I'm balancing the sound, you might still be pushing it in your nose anyway. It might be just too much intensity here. I'm lifting my soft palate, but it's still very nasally. So plug your nose. Hallelujah, hallelujah. That'll be more nasally. Hallelujah. See if you can make it sound less nasally by kind of trial and error. That's what I recommend. Sing with your nose plugged and see if that helps the nasally issue. If there's a lot of nasal on the vowels, then see if you can adjust that and not push so much in your nose. That's what I'd recommend. It could solve a lot of issues. Now, if anybody is doing the nasal thing and they're like, oh, there's nasal on the M, N, L, some vowels will, or consonants will have nasal. That's okay. You just don't want the vowels to be too nasally. You want, for the most part, not to be buzzing a whole lot here, unless you're doing a nasally belt situation. And then in that case, it's okay. But for the most part, you don't want too much nasal action when you're singing, for the most part, generally. In many contemporary commercial music styles. Okay. How much air do I need to support my mix and resonate well? How do I avoid bloating when trying to understand breath control? So, mixed voice, a good way to think about mixed voice is it's very similar to your speaking voice. So, think about a speaking breath when it comes to mixed voice, a speaking breath. So, if I were to sing, good luck, babe, in my mix, that took barely any breath at all. If I were to sing it in my head voice, good luck, babe, that actually took a little bit of a deeper breath, or a bigger breath, I should say. So either way, I was just talking about this with a student of mine. You want the air to drop in deeply no matter what, but the size really matters. So when you're singing a mixed voice, you don't want it to be a huge deep breath. You want it to be drop in, feel it drop in silently, but you don't want it to be a huge breath. If it's too big, it's too big for mixed voice. Mixed voice is a very delicate, sort of whiny feeling. And you can't really create that sound, that clarity with too big of a breath. And that's going to be different things for different singers depending on your body. So it's a little bit of trial and error once again, but a rule of thumb is it's more of a speaking breath. So it's not the big operatic breath. And in terms of bloating, avoiding bloating and trying to understand breath control, I would just say sing on a lip trill. I'm glad that helped. Sing on a lip trill. So if you're singing, you can guess 100 boys and bars, and you're running out of air or it's whatever, put your hand around where your diaphragm is or your stomach, your belly button, and just feel what your abs are doing. Are they clenching? Are they lightly pulling in? What's going on? What do you have to do to keep that lip trill going? And if you can't lip trill, you can hum, you can use a straw. But singing on what we call SOVT exercises will help you train the breath a little bit better. Okay, I think this might be our last question of the day. How do I get more resonance while singing? Because when I do the exercise, I feel it. Then when I go to sing, I don't feel it anymore. So, how do I apply the practices to actual singing? Chances are what's happening is when you're singing on words without hearing you, this is what I'm assuming is happening. When you're singing on the words, you're forming those vowels, like we were talking about earlier, differently. So, if you're doing like a or nya, 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 nya thing in your warm ups, and it's easy to find the resonance, you want to sort of match your singing, the words you're singing, to the shapes you're making in those exercises where you're able to find resonance. So, what is your tongue doing? How lifted is your soft palate? How are you focusing the sound in your warm ups as opposed to when you're singing? Maybe when you sing, your jaw shape is different, your mouth shape is different, and all of that kind of affects how we place our voice. So, if you're doing nya, 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 and then when you sing, you go, I heard that you, and it's too elongated or whatever, or flat, and it's totally a different shape than what you're making when you're doing warm-ups, that could be changing the sound a lot. I usually breathe and clench the abs. Is that good for singing? So you generally want to be gentle with your abdominal muscles. So I'm not doing, I heard, I heard. It's sort of like a light engagement. Hope that helps. Okay, y'all, I'm gonna run to teach a voice lesson in a few, but I'll do the timestamps at some point today for you guys. I have really enjoyed this. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll pop back in next week for a Q&A. It was an absolute joy, and thank you all for being so engaged. And if you have any questions, again, ask them in the comments, and I will answer on the next stream. I go live almost every week. And the end cap to this will show how you can get in touch with me if you want to take a voice lesson, which I'd love to meet you. So anyway, I'll head out now, but cheers. Bye, y'all.